Aloha kako and talofa. My name is Yaneta Le'i from Wailua, Hawaii, and I'm part of the Sundance Institute Indigenous Program. For over 40 years, Utah has been home to the Sundance Film Festival, and I'd like to acknowledge the Ute tribal nation, the ancestral keepers of the land that Sundance calls home. I would also like to honor the indigenous lands and people from which you join us, from our cold weather cousins in Sapmi lands to the Kanaka Maoli banded together atop Mauna Kea, Hawaii. Wherever you are in the world, enjoy our reimagined 2021 Sundance Film Festival.
Hello. So I'm Gina Duncan. I'm the producing director of the Sundance Film Festival. Thank you for joining us. I'll be moderating the conversation today with our CEO, Carrie Putnam, and our festival director, Tabitha Jackson. Carrie, do you want to say a few words to get us started?
You know, thanks, Gina. It's good to see you guys here virtually. I just want to thank all of you for being here today. I know in a normal year, this press conference would be in the Egyptian and you'd be getting ready to dash off probably through the snow on a shuttle bus to a premiere. And it means so much to have you here with us in this way. So just so grateful for those of you who are returning, and actually for so many first timers here with us today and throughout the week. Thank you all for making the time, for the work you do. I just want to also acknowledge what a crucial part of our ecosystem you are, helping contextualize and amplify the work that we showcase here. Without you, the artist would have so much of a harder time being discovered, breaking, reaching audiences, and that means so much to all of us. And also, beyond Sundance, you're such a critical part of the culture. You're meaning makers, you're critics, reporters, editors. You're helping set the agenda and drive the discourse and centering the arts, which we really appreciate. So I just wanted to say thank you and welcome.
Thank you for that, Carrie. I know that I can speak for myself, and I know I'll speak on behalf of Tabitha too. We both really believe and share that same sentiment. You started off early saying in a normal year, which in, last year in 2020 at the awards ceremony, Tabitha was announced as the new festival director. And Tabitha, you accepted a job that is turned out to be completely different than what was on paper at that time. So I wonder if you can just talk to us a little bit about the design of the festival this year, how that changed, how you had to make that pivot, and the experience of the platform as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gina. I even just seeing our trailer, you see all those little fragments and shards, and that came from the sense that what the pandemic had done was to kind of explode our present reality from then, and we were left with these pieces, and the festival actually is coming from a place of needing to completely reimagine and take the pieces that we know are part of our essence and build them into something different to meet the moment. And so I think there are a couple of things that were at the heart of the conception. One was energy. That's what a festival is. It's about energy. And so how do we preserve the energy around the work and the artists and the connection and the experiences? But what helped us get through this in figuring out what the festival should look like were those artists themselves. They are our North Star. And so we couldn't reimagine a festival without taking into account the people for whom we are doing it. So artists, of course, audiences, and the ecosystem, the industry that translates, that carries the work from a festival launch to the audiences. So we needed to figure out a way, after hearing from them what they would wish to see in a reimagined festival, and having experienced other festivals in the 2020 year, we knew that we had to create and design moments of connection. So how can audiences connect with the work? Well, something that's seemingly as simple as a live Q&A, but making sure that every single feature film has a live Q&A. That's a big resource, but it's absolutely because what we heard was that's a significant moment at a festival. The other thing, making sure that the films, that there's an anticipation around the films, that a film is going to have its premiere at a particular time and you need to scramble to get a ticket. That is the recognizable Sundance experience. And so, you know, energy, centering the artists, and these moments of connection were particularly important to us in thinking about what this was.
Yeah, and I feel that so much in terms of just, the different friends and family tests we've done of the platform, how I've been interacting with it. So I'm really excited to see how it stands up once folks get in. But I actually first encountered your vision, Tabitha, when I was at BAM, when I was running the cinema there. You reached out to me and had this idea of this hybrid existence, right? So the satellite screen initiative, which I think is incredibly valuable too, because in the same way that we are creating this safe online space, we also are connecting with communities across the country and tapping into what I feel is like a really rich ecosystem of nonprofit art houses who do this work throughout the year. And what I think is extremely valuable, and I don't say this now that you guys pay me, but what I found, what I really enjoyed about it was I know how much for art house operators, they rely on Sundance Film Festival. Like if they can put their funds together, that's the festival that we want to go to find the work and the connections. So,
but Gina, it's funny you say that though, because when we in the early days of thinking, okay, so much isn't possible because of the pandemic, but then so much is possible because we can decide what we want those fragments to coalesce into. One of the things we wanted to say was independent art houses around the US and around the world are such a vital part of the ecosystem, as you said. So we wanted to make this gesture of solidarity and to say that these representative places in these specific places are part of the festival. As it turned out, the gesture of solidarity and support was more than reciprocated, because as we find ourselves now in this third wave of the pandemic, where it's been impossible to express ourselves in person in Los Angeles, for example, and Utah, we now have this incredible group of partners who are both programming and screening the work across the country. 24 states, I think, and territories are Sundance this year. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and we talk about the art houses being a vital component of the ecosystem, but they're not the only one, right? So in terms of, I came to this as an exhibitor, but how did we sell this vision to other industry stakeholders and also get them to embrace this hybrid model?
I'm going to dive in on that one. Okay, Ted. Yeah, I think, we were so lucky. We had 10 months to watch and listen and learn from so many colleagues in the festival circuit. And I just want to take a moment and say how much we appreciate what all those festivals that came before us did, what they accomplished, how they lifted up the field. And we just really celebrate all of them. And they've been so generous in helping us learn along the way. So other festivals were a really important piece. When we got to the place of really Tabitha and her team defining that vision that included the digital platform, as she just described, and the satellite screens, we began socializing that in its earliest phases with our industry stakeholders, because it's also really important as we think about what our mission is and as an organization, as a nonprofit, to present works that then can go on to reach wider audiences even beyond the festival. It's really important that the industry, the people that are coming here to launch their work, understand and buy in. And so that work actually went throughout the summer, hearing from people, understanding what they needed, which actually coincided in great part with what Tabitha said the artists needed, the idea of the energy of a premiere and all of the things she mentioned. But throughout all of it, I think what we began to realize over the summer is, we're not just filling a void left by our in-person event, but is there something, I don't want this to sound flippant because it's obviously been such a difficult year, but could this year afford an opportunity for us to potentially drive an even broader impact for the artists and maybe reach more audiences in a festival that has all these component parts. So with that in mind, we worked with the stakeholders on the size of the audiences for the festival, the kind of virtual seats, and you know, it's been quite a journey. Where we landed was a pretty big swing, and based on these observations and conversations and our mission, and I guess I'll just close in that, you know, what we imagined in March was a little bit different than what we imagined in June and even in November. But what's been consistent throughout it is this representing the ideals of our purpose and our community. And I'm just so proud of the team for keeping that North Star in mind.
Yeah. And I think everyone here today can recognize that so much of this past year has been like flying a plane while building it. You know, you talk about what we imagined in March, what we imagined all throughout. But what's really exciting is that, you know, while we're kind of doing this, we're always moving forward. And I feel that really strongly. And I'm excited about the lessons we learn here and what takes us into the future. Tabitha, you know, in terms of the program itself, can you talk a bit about the program, how it came together? Does it feel different, new, exciting? Like, yeah, let's talk a bit about the work.
Well, everything feels new and different to me because I've never done it before. So yes, Gina, it does feel new and different. But the curatorial process remained stable. So of course, every year, the incredible programming team led by Kim Yutani are waiting to see where the artists take us. They're waiting to see what meaning is being made, what filmmakers and media makers are noticing in the world. And so what we see through our submission portals, what we didn't know this year was whether we were going to get anything, because artists are the same as everybody else in that they too fell ill because of the pandemic. They were dealing with tragedy. They too were on the front lines of the uprising around racial justice. And they too were the victims of an economic crisis. So how on earth were they going to be able to make work? So we didn't know if it was going to be feast or famine. It turned out, much to our amazement, that our submission numbers were only slightly down from what we had seen in previous years. And they were mainly down from US production and mainly US fiction. We know that production had completely stopped, but we were at the point where we could both benefit from films that had already gone into production and been made, and lots of documentaries. There was actually an uptick in non-US documentary submissions. And because artists are so creative and they make art by any means necessary, we also got films that were made in COVID, and that's reflected either in the subject matter or in the form, distanced casting and setting. And it's been interesting, and for us to be able to be one of the first showcases, if not the first showcase, for the creativity that came through a pandemic or is being made in the midst of it. It's kind of interesting to us. So we were very pleased about that. The program is tighter, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because again, in preserving energy, we wanted to make sure the festival was something that people could really immerse themselves in if they were able, but simultaneously giving each film a moment, so that they're not all on top of each other. It's not just on demand where you can get them whenever and there's a dispersed energy, but it's all together, concentrated, an embarrassment of riches. And that's what Sundance is. So the program reflects the design and reflects an incredible quality and quantity of work that has been made.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in and say, Tabitha, to you and Kim and the whole team, it's just, it's been so fun to begin to peruse these films over the last several weeks since you programmed, to meet these new voices. I've been coming to Sundance for a really long time, and I feel we always see incredible work making its debut, but I really think this is going to be a great year. I just want to congratulate you and the team on that. I also want to say we're very happy that I think it's 14 films in the program were supported by Sundance Institute through our lab programs and other programs, and that's always a nice thing when it happens. So wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, listen, Sundance for me in the past has always been like, here's my schedule. Where am I going to find food? How do I fit this in as I'm trying to get from one screening to another? This year I have the advantage in that I got to see all the films ahead of time. So I can actually just dive into talks and events, which I think is extremely helpful for me, because Tabitha, as you talk about the energy of the festival, you really, really feel that I feel within talks and events. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the programming there, what folks could find. And then I'm also going to give you that dreaded question. And Carrie, I'm going to do this with you too. If there is a talk and event that you're really looking forward to, if you could give some suggestions.
Oh man. Well, okay, so the programming first. Talk about a festival of discovery, because we are working with such incredible partners who program themselves, and that includes the satellite screens, the art houses across the country, and also our partners. Like, you will remember, those of you who have been to the festival before, walking down Main Street and seeing these incredible expressions of creativity through our partners, the Chase Sapphire building and the Acura stage and, amazing CNN Lounge, all that stuff happening down Main Street. We have asked our partners whether they would go on this imaginative journey with us too, and recreate a feeling of that and program their spaces. So in this thing called Festival Village, there's an unbelievably rich amount of talks and events and encounters, in addition to the stuff that we have programmed. So again, for those of you familiar, Cinema Cafe is incredibly strong this year. The conversations, I suspect, will be amazing. We have great pairings of artists in the program. There's a slate called The Big Conversation, which is taking on the weighty issues of the day. And I'm looking forward. I'm going to self-promote, actually, Gina, in this section, because you're asking me this question. A conversation that I am having with Raoul Peck. Raoul Peck is an extraordinary filmmaker, and he has a huge project coming up which looks at colonialism and slavery and capitalism, 600 years of history, looking at these big narratives. And I'm going to be talking to Raoul Peck about all of that. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward is the wrong word, because I'm absolutely terrified. In a year where I didn't know I was going to be doing that, has become a refrain. I'm going to be hosting a morning show every morning of the festival, starting tomorrow at 9 o'clock Mountain Time, in which we look at what is coming up. We have special guests coming on, Rebecca Hall, Martha Plimpton, some great people, and I'm going to be a host of a show. So sorry, that was a bit self-aggrandizing, but
No. Self-promotion. We're all about that. That's good.
Could be a total train wreck as well. So let's try.
I want to just also mention that, and I didn't hear whether you said this, Tabitha, but just want to underline it. All of the talks and events this year are free and open globally. So, while there's some restrictions in terms of, rights and availabilities on the feature films and some of the short films, this is something we hope everybody will be able to participate in. And it's another example too of what you said at the satellite screens, which is the symbiosis. I mean, we in this year where I think we all are dealing with, challenges and constrained resources and everything, we absolutely needed to rely and lean on partners to help us enliven this sort of digital version of a festival, and hopefully by offering the partners a chance to activate on our platform, there's benefits for them as well. So I feel like that exchange is so emblematic of what this year is about, which is leaning on other people's shoulders and being stronger together. I will answer your question about the panel, about which one. I guess one of the ones I'm excited about, there's so many good ones and lots of good music too, as well. One of the things I'm excited about is that one of our Institute's newest board members, the incredible Kimberly Crenshaw, is moderating a conversation with Brian Stevenson, who is the founder and executive director of the Equal Justice Institute, and the Pulitzer Prize winning writer Viet Thanh Nguyen it's about the construction, dissemination, and deployment of the narrative around the United States, and also about the role of independent media in sort of reshaping and retelling that. So I'm pretty excited for that one.
Carrie, you're so highbrow. That's going to be so.
Oh,
that's
fine.
That is going to be no. That's an amazing one. I also want to. I forgot to mention this, but New Frontier, talking about leaning on people to come up with the goods. New Frontier this year is off the charts, and it's yes, the incredible work in XR, VR, AR you would expect, but it's also a fully social experience. So under the leadership of Shari Freelo, this festival has built a virtual spaceship situated up next to the International Space Station, where you can go in, use avatar, proximity audio, webcam, and that's the place where we can meet and bump into people, the serendipitous encounters that we've been trying to figure out what it would look like. Shari cracked it, and it's a stunning experience. So just wanted to
And
mention.
apparently you can give hugs in this space too, which many of us have not been able to do for a while. So, so I will answer my own question since I made you do it. I'm really excited about our Power of Story conversation. Speculative Fiction is the place, with Hannah Beachler and Wanuri Caillou and Sophia Nali Allison, who I really love, which is going to be led by Jacqueline Stewart, who I just think fantastic. So that's the one that I'm excited. Black women powerhouses having a great conversation about sci-fi. So, and all of that. So that's really exciting. I know we could probably go on forever here, but I know we need to take some time for questions from all of you who joined us. So I'm going to start here with a question from Veronica Bruno from Culturist, Culturist 2020. So, yeah, 2020 was a record year for female directors. How is Sundance contributing to this awesome rise at this year's festival?
I can start, and then Kerry, this has been a passion and a commitment of yours for so many years that you should back me up. Just from programming terms, again, led by the amazing Kim Yutani, our process is we are aware of the disparity in work directed by women, particularly as budgets increase. We are very aware of that. When we look at the submissions, we are looking at the films that we receive, and we talk about authorship as we would in an organization that prizes the independent voice. Who has made this film? What's their perspective? What are they adding to the narrative? And we talk about each film individually. And then when it comes to putting together a program, a festival, we say, does the work that we have spoken about represent the world of makers that it speaks to? And at that point, we look at our balance. So we were delighted to see so much incredible work this year, helmed by female directors, made by female producers, female editors, and so it's very pleasing that we can show so much. The job is never done. The job is never done. The year in which we don't have to talk about it is the year I'm greatly looking forward to it. But thanks for noting that. Kerry, what would you add to that?
You know, I don't have too much to add. I'll just say as you mentioned, this focus on, where the obstacles are for women, creators of color, people, all creators who have been traditionally marginalized. I think the focus on developing new talent, giving space through our labs to new voices, taking original research, looking hard at our data, and holding ourselves accountable to making sure that we're, as an institution, year-round, working on ways to find interventions that actually meet the specific obstacles and along with, again, a ton of partners. That's the work that we've been doing for some time. And this work, I do want to say, it absolutely precedes me at Sundance. From the very beginning of Sundance, there were a great range of storytellers, including some terrific women and women of color at the very earliest labs. So I think this is something that we've been after for a long time. And you're right, it'll be great when we don't have to talk about it.
So the next question, I think, actually piggybacks a little bit on this, but maybe is an opportunity for a little more specificity. So this is from Mercedes Griffin from DG Speaks. In light of the issues raised by 2020's Black Lives Matter protests, what has Sundance done to promote diversity in film?
Again, I'll just start this off. I mean, I think Sundance's founding mission and purpose was around centering particular voices that had either been left on the margins or confined to the margins. And so I wouldn't date it to the uprising, the Black Lives Matter process. It's part of our, again, the cliche, it's part of our DNA. However, that moment, this moment that felt like some kind of a defining moment, certainly made us look with different eyes, perhaps, around the way we do things, the conversations we have in the programming room, the questions that we might wish to ask on submission forms going forward, understanding who we are as individuals in the room, as curators and gatekeepers of resources. It was an immediate looking inward is what the effect was, because the program itself, Mercedes, you'll understand that these issues have been the same issues that we have been dealing with and that filmmakers have been addressing through their work since the birth of cinema. So it's not, unlike the pandemic, it's not that we saw something new because of the Black Lives Matter protest this year. It's been going on for decades and over a century. But yes, I think it was the focus on our own practices. Kerry, would you say that's a fair?
I think that's right. And there's a lot that we have to look inwards as an institution about in terms of how, who we are, how we create safe and welcoming spaces, whether they're digital or in the real world for everyone. That's a little different than the question, I think, which is about the film program. But I think it's really important to balance. The results don't change if the process isn't interrogated. And so that's something that we're really mindful of. Gina, I wanted to turn back and ask you a question, because I think another context in which, sorry, but I hope that's okay, but I think another context in which this applies is our selection of satellite screen partners and the communities around them, because that's part of film. It's part of the ecosystem as well. I don't know if you have a word on that.
Yeah, I mean, today is also my 90th day on the job. So I'm yay, 90 days. But I did want to say, that process did start a bit before me, but what I was really excited about when I came in was how much thoughtfulness Sundance, actually this initiative led by Brenda Coughlin on our team, put into picking the art houses, because within every sector of the industry, there are the usual players, and Sundance has a long tradition of working with art house cinemas. And I feel like this year we kind of shook it up a little bit in terms of who we partnered with. So we have, independent screening programmers who do things like pop-ups within the community. We have your traditional art house establishment, but a lot of them are BIPOC led or have BIPOC programmers. They have long track records within their community of doing very inclusive programming. And I'm also really excited that a number of them I've worked with for years, who I met through the Art House Convergence. And then we started a smaller group within that called A4A, Alliance for Action, which is a lot of very young and dedicated Black and Brown people who want to see more diversity in that sphere. So I'm really happy about how that came together. And I think, we'll see how this works this year, but in terms of year-round programming and how we work and engage with art houses throughout the year, I'm really excited to see how we can continue to work with them, but then also figure out how to make that group bigger.
And Gina, just jumping on that one as well. Sorry, I know I've got lots more questions, but the other aspect of it is the audiences that one promotes, diversity in film through promoting a diversity of audience. And that was one of the other opportunities of this year, that we can extend beyond Park City. And, the meaning is made, I think, by the moment in which the work is received and who it is received by. So when you have a program like ours this year being received by just as excited audiences, to be those first audiences, but coming from their own communities, I think both in regular film lovers and in terms of the press who are writing about these films. We're doing another year of our press inclusion initiative. That is how the work can get translated, communicated, build the energy around it, that they then can make sure it goes within the main arteries of the culture. So audiences are key.
I mean, this year, a lot of people are going to have their first Sundance Film Festival experience.
Yeah.
And that's
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so Keith Samanton, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Keith, from IMDb. Does the pre-digitized web available access for these films help them to possibly get acquired more easily?
Carrie,
I'm going to dive in on that one. Keith, it's a great question. And I don't know. I don't think any of us know. I think we have to imagine that there's so many factors that go into what makes a film get acquired. It's the environment of the screening, which obviously, it has wonderful elements in real life, and hopefully we've captured some of those in this digital platform. But it's also what else is going on in the exhibition environment and the distribution environment. What are the specifics of the program? So I feel like, not avoiding the question, but I think we want to lean back and learn and see and listen and see where we are, and then maybe we can all answer that question better together after we're done.
So this question is from Eric Deggans from National Public Radio. Have you found any unexpected advantages to having the festival virtual this year?
I just have to dive in and just echo what Tabitha said before, and you did too. We weren't sure, we sort of build it, will they come? We weren't sure. The fact that we've met and exceeded the goals that we had for audience reach and accessibility, and that this will be, we think, the largest audience we've ever had, is a huge unexpected advantage, because it wasn't clear that people would turn out for a digital Sundance, and obviously the satellite screens is a different story.
And I would say, in addition to the reach and accessibility, I would say the most unexpected advantage for me is that I can be a festival director and not have to wear pants.
Okay.
I also want to take a moment. It wasn't, we went through some tough times, as so many of our colleagues did as a nonprofit. We didn't have the traditional ticketing we would have at the festival. We didn't know what it's expensive to build a digital platform, and the culture changed, and the stresses of isolation and doing all that. It was tough. One thing that was an incredible welcome surprise is that our partners, our sponsors, our supporters stuck with us in this year, and were there for the journey with us. And I just really want to take this opportunity to thank them, from our presenting sponsors all the way through to every individual supporter and nonprofit partner. It makes a huge difference, and we are really grateful. And it wasn't inevitable. It was their belief in what we're doing, and I think their connection with our purpose and values that caused them to stick with us.
So this question is from Sean Means from Salt Lake Tribune. What have you learned so far about the online festival that might carry over to the future years when we are not worried about a pandemic, knocking on wood, and hopefully back in Park City?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the possibilities of reach and access and participation to a global audience, that I want to carry through in whatever way seems appropriate. You know, we're always going to have too many people to fit into Park City. We're always going to have people who simply can't either financially or physically or geographically make it to Park City. So this additional dimension, I think, is really exciting, but we haven't started the festival yet. And so what I want us to be able to do is to remain open and notice the possibilities and opportunities that present themselves, and also notice the things that we tried because we wanted to try them, but they didn't work. And so it's going into it with a spirit of experimentation and openness, while being mindful that people are giving us money to have a festival experience. That's what we want to preserve. So Sean, we'll come back to you afterwards and tell you what we want to carry through.
I agree completely. You know, what have we learned? We don't know, but I will say we are all, I'll speak for myself. I can't wait to be back together in a collective experience, and back in Utah, back in Park City. That will for sure be part of our future, and as it has been part of our past. But what these additional components be, will be, I think Tabitha said it right. We gotta actually take the time to see what happens and then distill what we've learned.
That reminds, sorry, Gina, that just reminded me of that lovely Agnes Varda quote when I asked her
who's highbrow now.
Just trying to catch up with you. I asked her how she approached her edits, and she said when she has done her filming, the question for her was not, did I achieve my intention, but rather, what did I just do? And I think it's that, us being able to see the things we're not looking for. That's what we have to remain open to.
That's really true.
Well, just a little one from Eric Cohn. How cold is it outside the Egyptian now?
It's freezing, Eric. It's freezing here. It's snowing today in Utah.
Yeah. So this next question from Oakley Anderson Moore from No Film School. How is Sundance dealing with worries about piracy?
Yeah, we're working with an incredible digital team and tech team, and our partner is a company called Shift 72 that also did many of the other online festivals you've seen. They've taken care of the player. We've built the experience around that player, but we have incredible security. We've run it through, as I said before, we've run it through the industry. We've tested it. We've got we've got watermarking, and we've got a lot of identification and security means in the way we're enabling people to access films, only one viewing and not sharing ID, things like that. Piracy is a reality sometimes in the, in the online space, but I do feel we're doing everything we can to mitigate that. And I think we've employed all the best practices. So we are hopeful.
That's great. Thank you. So let's see here. Tammy Reese from New York Women in Film and Television. She asks, Sundance is inclusive and diverse more than ever. What overall goes into the process of creating a festival that is welcoming to all?
Ooh, that's a good one, particularly because this year, it's really important, Tammy, that we could feel that even in this online space, that we could feel that we were opening the doors, that we wanted to be welcoming. We wanted people to feel safe and to feel as though they belonged to a community, even if they were coming for the very first time just to see a film. And so, of course, in the real life space of Park City, we have been thinking very carefully about what it is to welcome people and keep a safe space in the online environment, which can be so fraught and heightened. We needed to think about a whole set of procedures that doubled down on that. And of course, we did some years ago institute a code of conduct. But what we wanted to do, I think, as you saw at the beginning of this, as we waited to come on, you saw a community agreement. And for us, that has a different sensibility. That's about how we take responsibilities as individuals to have a respectful space, that we can present our different viewpoints and have conversation about the big matters of the moment, and feel safe doing it. It's not that everyone has to agree with each other, but it's that we can have a fully realized discourse without it going crazy. So a huge amount of time, and Kerry, maybe you could speak a bit more about this, went into thinking, what does this safety and belonging feel like, and how can we manifest it?
Yeah, I think you said it. The only thing I'll add is just an amazing thanks to the team at Sundance who worked so hard on this, and the vendors they're working with. We've trained, we've taken extra steps to train our staff, our moderators, even required all of our partners to go through certain trainings that we'll want to see how it all shakes out. But it has been starting with the community agreement and building out to how we manifest that, operationally, has been an enormous amount of work. And I'm just so impressed with the team at Sundance who led that.
I want to go back for a second to the piracy question there, because I know that we approached that with as much thoughtfulness and care as we did with the safety of the screenings.
Yeah, I wish we had John Williams or Tara on here to talk about all the details, but yeah. I think what, did you have a specific question you wanted to ask?
No. I was just, I just want to know if there's anything else that we wanted to hit on.
I mean, I guess my feeling is, it's obviously something you need to be mindful of. And I think any artist, any member of the industry, any rights holder who presents their film online, is mindful of piracy. But the vendors we've hired to police piracy, the practices we have in place, as I mentioned before, with the watermarking and with the mechanisms for tracking individual viewers to their accounts and to the films that they're screening, are going to go, I think, a long way, and ideally the whole way towards solving that problem. So sorry if I wasn't clear enough before.
No, it's good. I just wanted to give another.
Thanks for that chance.
So this one is from Karen Picata from Currents Magazine. What is one of the most exciting things about using the virtual festival this year? I think that's I guess we can look at what's most exciting about the platform from your perspective.
There's so much that's exciting about the platform, and it's you have to dive into it and start experiencing it. But one thing I think that's just amazing that our team was able to build, and I should also say a little bit about this digital team at Sundance who have just done extraordinary work, led by Tara Hine-Phillips, Ama Aquara, Panaki Saha. It's an amazing team. And what Tara had led a platform called Collab that we have. We built that over 3 years. So we've seen, as that platform has iterated and grown, we've seen what the value of a community is. I think we have over 1 million users and 100,000 members on that Collab platform, which sort of is our digital expression of our labs. But for the platform at the festival, what this team was able to do, and one of my favorite parts, is really customize it for the individual. So if you see things you like and you favorite them, you can go into a personal schedule that sort of lists all of those favorites and allows you to either watch from there or buy a ticket from there. It's a very customized experience, and as a result, I hope we'll feel more human and connected. And I just really appreciate that work that they did.
It's a really amazing, just what they've been able to accomplish in this time is just.
I mean, it probably should have taken, a lot longer.
No, it's
They did a
good.
great job.
And I'm gonna give another shout out, just because I'm obsessed with it, to our New Frontier platform that was built from nothing, a gleam in the eye, by Active Theory, the developers Active Theory. I mean, it's extraordinary. Eric, you wrote a wonderful piece in IndieWire about it. Thank you so much for that. But to the others of you, you can get in there simply on your laptop and have this avatar experience. If you have a VR headset, you can also go into the cinema house that has been built especially for this and watch films in the cinema house in the New Frontier spaceship. And just this ability to be social. I am going to spend any downtime I have in New Frontier, because that's the only way this year I'm going to be able to encounter people serendipitously. So yeah, catch me in the New Frontier.
Talk about the film party. Talk about that.
Film party is amazing. So we had, thanks Kerry, yeah, we had been talking about what happens at the festival. The normal behavior and the wonderful thing is that people see films and then they get on the shuttle bus to go and see another film, and that's where they talk about what they've just seen, and you can have these unexpected conversations. How are we going to do that in this environment? Well, Shari and her team and Active Theory built this place where you go over to the New Frontier platform, which is very easy to do, and if you go to Film Party, each feature film that is premiering, after the Q&A, you can go there in your avatar and talk to people about that film. I mean, literally talk to them, hear them, see them in your avatar. You go into a special little lounge to talk about that specific one. So making sure that that conversation, that discourse around the work and that connection of audience to audience, and the artists are going to be there too, audience to artist, fingers crossed, but I think it's going to work.
So I'm getting word we have time for just a few more. And I also just want to say that my mom always wanted me to be Oprah, and I'm feeling like this is
You're
my
doing
first.
a great job. Yeah.
So a couple more. So we have from Anthony D'Alessandro from Deadline, given the ease of COVID restrictions, will the drive-ins return in LA? I think I can answer that one, Anthony, and that is unfortunately no. It takes a lot of work, and it'd be very hard for us to pivot that quickly and get those back up. We pulled the plug on those, I think smartly and rightly so, but it was still a difficult decision since we know a lot of filmmakers are really looking forward to it, but unfortunately we cannot go back now. This one's from Chris Lindahl from IndieWire. Can we expect any dispatches with Robert Redford?
You will hear Robert Redford at our opening welcome. That is all I'm going to say.
Which is at what time?
Yeah.
When?
It's 7 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Mountain time tonight. Please tune in. It's interesting because the welcome often at the in-person festival is the opening night films. And this environment gave us the opportunity to come together with everybody, should they choose, and just like mark the moment of embarking on this thing. So I really hope that people show up.
And Bob, as a founder and board member and advisor, is always central to what we're doing, both in terms of the continuity of his vision and his continued presence and advice. So we feel and see Bob around us all the time and doing our work.
Well, I think that actually is a nice note to end on. I want to thank everyone for coming this morning and listen to us talk through the festival. And Carrie and Tabitha, thank you so much for giving your time. I know, Tab, you have a lot on your plate. Both of you tonight will be at the opening. And I don't know if there's any last words that you want to share, or we can go off and get our festival started.
I thank you. I wanted to reiterate what Kerry said at the beginning. The way that it's not just this festival, but the way the work is written about, your translation of these new voices, new ideas, new work into the culture is so essential to the vitality of the independent cinema landscape that incredibly grateful that you would spend the time here. And I really want you to experience the festival. So please, if any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. It's not going to be perfect. We know that. And that's a function of us being ambitious and wanting to do the best we possibly can for the best of reasons. Your feedback is going to be really important to us as we design our future from this starting point.
Perfect way to end. Thanks, Tabitha.
All right, well, thank you all so much for attending. Have a wonderful day and see you in New Frontier. Yeah. Bye-bye.